Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Surah Al-Baqarah, Chapter 2, and we will cover verses 124 to 131 today. The account of Ibrahim, the model for mankind. These are the references. Some of the excerpts which I will share in some of the slides are taken from the Meanings of the Quran, Volume 3. And this is our contact in case there is any query, question regarding this presentation or any of our previous presentations, then this is the contact. We go to first slide, verse 124, the model of Ibrahim as a Momin. وَإِذْ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا قَالَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ عَهْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ. To rise up for this kind of system of haqq and truth, there is undoubtedly a need for great courage and steadfastness. But history is a witness to this, that whoever stands up with courage and determination, what an elevated stature becomes bestowed on him. You know about the biography of your forefather Ibrahim. He could have acquired the highest status of priesthood in the state, but he rejected it with contempt and stood up for the establishment of the divine system with full determination and resoluteness. The Quran has covered the biography of Messenger Ibrahim, in which he stood up against his father and the people who were idol worshippers. After that, he had to go through many patience testing and life-threatening phases. But all these phases became opportunities for his self-development. He met all the criteria and in this way proved how to what an extent his self was developed. What was the outcome of this? He became deserving of the imamat of mankind, and his maslak became the standard for judging the straightness and crookedness of human society. Because it is only the good human beings within a society who serve as external criteria, as model for others. That is why Quran says that you should never be fearful of the majority. Just follow the Quran, stand up, and then see how good results will start appearing before you. All this was the outcome of the efforts and endeavors of Ibrahim. However, you are assuming to have become Imam of mankind by merely being the progeny of Ibrahim, although he had made it clear there and then that whoever adopts the path of injustice and transgression, even from the progeny of Ibrahim, that status will then be snatched from him. Hence, when you abandoned that maslak, that imamat also became snatched from you. So Quran is addressing all of us that if you want to follow the path of Ibrahim, then all those successes which came to him and people around him, that is the Jamaat Momin, can also come to yourselves. Next slide is the model of the messenger Ibrahim. The Quran has presented the Ibrahim as a model for mankind for all times. And in another verse, Quran says, Inna Ibrahima kana ummatan qanitan lillahi hanifan walam yaku minal mushrikeen. Ibrahim was indeed a model, devoutly obedient to Allah, that is to his laws, and true in Iman. And he was never one of those who commit shirk. That is, once he accepted the Iman and started following this path, he never mixed any other laws with the laws of Wahi. In this verse, three important aspects are highlighted for our guidance. Firstly, he went through various challenges of life which a non-Quranic system always presents. وَإِذْ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. And we know the meanings of ibtala, that this is where we face challenges presented by the society in which we live, and we confront those challenges. We follow the path of the Quran and its value system and come out successfully by developing ourselves. Ibrahim faced various challenges as part of his acceptance of Iman, and he countered these successfully. This aspect is related to Rabb by the Quran, that is the system of Rububiyat. Because Momineen are the ones who work for the system of Rububiyat, and they follow the permanent values, they manifest the divine attributes, and then work towards the system of Deen. Secondly, as a consequence of this supreme success, he is declared to be the Imam for the whole of mankind, a model for successive generations, i.e., since he as a human being could do it, then so can we. And that is the important aspect which I have highlighted over here, that the messenger Ibrahim was a human being, and Quran is saying is that if he could do it, so can you. And he served as a model for earlier era of Islam, that is the Jamaat-e-Momineen of that time, which was led by the messenger of Allah, that is Rasulullah himself. Thirdly, Ibrahim said that will this favor of Allah be for all of his progeny, that is successive generations. It is made clear in line with the rest of the Quranic message that this blessing will be for those who are not Zalimeen. So Quran has made it very clear that the success which is mentioned in the Quran is for those who accept Iman, do Saleh deeds, and make the messenger Ibrahim as their model. Qala la yanalu ahd zalimin. He, that is Allah, answered that my promise is not within the reach of evildoers. So people who are committing wrongs in the world can never ever get the guidance of the Quran unless they first give up the wrongs which they are committing in the world. We go to the next verse, 125, the purpose of the Kaaba outlined. وَإِذْ جَعَلْنَا الْبَيْتَ مَثَابَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَأَمْنًا وَاتَّخِذُوا مِنْ مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلًّى وَعَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ أَنْ طَهِّرَ بَيْتِي لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْعَاكِفِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. This was the system established by Ibrahim, whose center was declared to be the Kaaba, so that the whole of mankind gathers at one point after removing their differences, and as a consequence becomes secure and at peace from every kind of harm, which are the intrinsic consequence of tribalism and nationalism. This is that center around which mankind has to ultimately congregate. From this, mankind will be enabled to stand on its own feet. So over here, Quran has said that Kaaba will serve as the center of Muslim Ummah as and when it wishes to stand out on its own feet. So we can imagine that in today's, for example, environment where war is going on in the Middle East, if Kaaba had served as the center of Muslim Ummah, which was united and there were no sects among them, this war would have never ever taken place. If you wish to achieve the status of Ibrahim, then follow his maslak and pattern. We had emphasized to Ibrahim and Ismail, who were the architects of the Kaaba, that they make this place the center for universal mankind, and by keeping it cleansed and purified from the self-fabricated beliefs of human beings, dedicated to the organization and training of that Jamaat. So the starting point is to amend our beliefs, that is to change our conviction, acquire Iman, because unless our inner psyche is changed, the outer world is not going to change. Whose aim of life is that by bowing down fully before the divine laws, i.e., by obeying them totally, to adopt such a status that it becomes the guardian and caretaker of all nations in the world. It resolves their tangled affairs and binds together their disintegrated unity. So as and when Muslim Ummah emerges, there will be a need for a center, and that center Quran has designated as Kaaba. Next slide is, the Kaaba is to serve as a physical center for the Muslim Ummah. This verse outlines some important aspects of the role of the Kaaba as the ultimate center for the Muslim Ummah in the world. And this purpose is to be accomplished through the hands of the Jamaat-e-Momineen, and that has to be done on behalf of mankind as a whole. So we should keep in mind that Jamaat-e-Momineen has to emerge before this promise of Allah is fulfilled, that is, the system of Deen is established in some land in the world. The purpose of the Kaaba has been stated as Mataba lin-nas wa amnan, a place of assembly for mankind and a place of safety. Tab root is given over here, means to assemble, and Mataba means that location where there is assembling after returning from every place, i.e., rendezvous, destination, a gathering point, a center for congregation of a group. Hence, Mataba lin-nas will mean the center for the gathering of mankind at one point for a common purpose. Next, it is stated in the verse, Amnan, so that it becomes protected and secured from all kinds of dangers, which are the essential consequence of sectarianism and nationalism. And we can see that how Quran brings together our Iman and its relation to the physical signs as a Kaaba, as a center of Muslim Ummah. So Quran is providing guidance to us in terms of coming together and then creating and strengthening this center which is called Kaaba. Next slide is the Kaaba as a center is for the whole of mankind. This point demands profound reflection and attention that wherever in the Quran there is mention of the Kaaba or Hajj, the words Linnas have been used, that is mankind, rather than Jamaat-e-Momineen. So while Quran is addressing Jamaat-e-Momineen, it is asking us to keep focus on mankind as a whole, i.e. not for any specific nation, specific group or specific sect, but for the whole of mankind. And here is a verse that first house which was established for the whole of mankind is in Mecca, and it is a source of guidance for all the nations of the world. And the verse in Arabic is Inna awwala baitin wudi'a lin-nasi lillazi bibakkata mubarakan wa hudal lil alameen. And Bibakka over here refers to Mecca. With this, it is also stated that whoever enters this system, he will achieve security. And we made the house a place of assembly for men and a place of safety. People residing here do not have a monopoly over this city. And this is very important value, that it does not belong to people who are, for example, like Saudi Arabia where Mecca is, it doesn't belong to them. This city is for every Muslim in the world, in fact for whole of mankind. Whether the people are from here or are those coming from outside, its doors are open equally to the whole of mankind. Very important. And this is bound to happen at some point in the future. Next slide is the Maslka of Ibarheem highlighted. The program of Deen, that is the Islamic system, which is to make the whole of mankind as one ummah, the Kaaba has been declared to be its center. And the congregation of Hajj is the means to achieve this aim, which is called the Ummat-e-Muslimah. Its duty is the supervision and the organization of this congregation. Therefore, it is also stated about this ummah, you are the most excellent nation who have been created for the welfare of humanity. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nas. And we should keep in mind that this Jamaat-e-Momineen does not grow out of nothing. It has to make an effort to come together and then emerge and establish the system of Deen. From there you have seen what the aim was of declaring Ibraheem as the Imam of An-Nas. He was the first inviter of this system whose aim was to mold the whole of humanity into one universal brotherhood. And this was that very Ibrahimi Maslak that is called Millat Ibrahimi, for which the command was given to all followers of religions. So much so that Rasulullah himself was also told that we have also sent this wahi to you, have given this command that after turning your attention away from all sides, follow the Millat Ibrahimi. The Jamaat-e-Momineen are told to make the stature, and Quran has called it Musalla, and we can see it has got a same root as of Salat. Make the stature of Ibrahim as the focus of attention in your life. Next slide is elaborating the meaning of Taifeen. This is the term used in the verse. We had emphasized to Ibrahim and Ismail, who were the builders of Kaaba, that they make this place as the center of universal humanity. And by making it cleansed and purified from the self-created concepts and beliefs of human beings, dedicated to that Jamaat whose aim of life is to fully bow down before the laws of Allah. By fully obeying these, adopt such a status that it becomes guardian and caretaker of whole of mankind. It resolves their convoluted affairs and to gather their dispersed constituents. Because unless the differences of mankind are removed, and this Jamaat helps them to remove in the light of the Quranic value system, peace and freedom for fear cannot come to the world. The meaning of ruku and sujood has been explained in volume 2 under verses 43 and 34 of Surah Al-Baqarah, and this is already covered in our previous sessions. The meaning of tawfun is to revolve and to go around in a circle. A watchman or jailer is called a taif, the one who watches at night to provide security and goes around in a circle. We have seen previously that the Ummah, who is the holder of this system, whose center is the Kaaba, is called the best of Ummahs evolved for mankind, i.e., that nation which is shaped for the prosperity and growth of mankind. In another verse it is stated, "Thus have we made you an Ummah justly balanced, that you may be witnesses over mankind, and the messenger a witness over yourselves." And absence of this Jamaat, this Ummah in the world, is the cause of all the problems which we are facing in the world of 2026. We go to the next slide, elaborating the meaning of wal akifeen. This term is also appeared in this verse. This verse appears between those verses in which the importance of the Kaaba is noted. The first characteristics of this Ummah is that it is Ummatun Wasatun. Wasatun is that thing which is at an equal distance from every other thing, just like the center of a circle is at an equal distance from the circumference. Hence, this will be that nation which will be at an equal distance from all of mankind, which neither inclines towards anyone nor becomes pulled away for no reason, because it follows the values of the Quran, and Quran says that do justice even if it is against your own selves. So it has to be absolute just. We think that there cannot be a more comprehensive concept than this for a nation working for justice. After this, see what is described as the duty of this Ummah, overseeing the actions and character of all the nations of the world, i.e., one which monitors that no nation moves away from the path of justice and impartiality. This is exactly that function which in today's world we think UNO should be carrying out. But since UNO has weak values, rather relative values, and are controlled by the richest in the world, the most powerful, so it simply cannot carry out these functions. And their Rasool, the final authority of the system of Allah, is the guardian over their deeds and character. With regard to this supervision and observation, they are called Taifeen, i.e., the nation which protects and supervises them. The other characteristic of theirs is stated to be Akifeen. The meaning of Akafa is to prevent the dispersion of something by putting a thread through, in the way that beads are threaded together to form a string of pearls and are thus prevented from being scattered. So unity is at the heart of Muslim Ummah. This unity is then to serve as a model for other nations in the world. The meaning of Akifeen will be that Ummah which disciplines the broken unity of the nations of the world and resolves their tangled affairs amicably. So that means if there is no Muslim Ummah in the world, the differences cannot disappear. There will be injustice in the world, and the world will be full of fear and huzn. Next slide is few more elaborations. This is the Quranic meaning of Taifeen, Akifeen, Rukka Sujood, i.e., that nation which possesses these characteristics, through whose hands that system will be shaped, whose center is the Kaaba. Here the Quran has called it Baiti, i.e., my home. Everything in this universe belongs to Allah, but He specifically declares certain things as mine, from which is meant that these cannot be in the possession of any specific nation, specific group, specific Jamaat, or specific individuals. Those will be kept available for the common good of the whole of mankind. So according to this verse, at present there is no baiti, that is, there is no home for Allah, because all the functions which this home was supposed to carry out cannot be carried out. And this will be established by Jamaat Momin in some future time. Similarly, he has stated that if in any particular part of the earth tyrannical powers, by assuming ownership, make your lifetime difficult, then you should migrate from there to some place of land which is not in the grip of anyone. This has also been called Ardi, my earth, by Allah, i.e. my land. Even though the whole of the earth belongs to Allah, the meaning of Baiti becomes clear, i.e. that house which is not owned by any individual or nation in the world. Instead, it is the shared house of the whole of mankind, because it is the house of their Allah. This was that house of Allah about which the architects of the Kaaba were instructed to keep it purified and clean. There is no doubt in this that the word Taharat, Tahira Baiti, which is used in the verse, is also used for cleanliness of the physical body, but it also appears for cleanliness of heart and vision, thoughts, ideologies, beliefs, and which is a very difficult task, because we cannot cleanse and purify our thoughts unless we have gone through the Quran and accepted precisely that Iman which is defined in the Quran. For example, it is stated in Surah Al-Ma'idah about the hypocrites, their hearts simply cannot become pure. So we can see that what is the state of affairs in today's world, that is the world of 2026, that there is no my house which belongs to Allah as defined in this verse, and as a result there is no peace on the planet Earth. We go to the next verse, 126, the law for means of sustenance explained. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَٰذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ مَنْ آمَنَ مِنْهُمْ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ قَالَ وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَأُمَتِّعُهُ قَلِيلًا ثُمَّ اضْطَرُّهُ إِلَىٰ عَذَابِ النَّارِ وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. Ibrahim laid down the foundation of this center and supplicated to Allah that, O Rabb, make this place become an abode of peace and sanctuary for all the distressed human beings in the whole world, and those people from among them who have Iman in the truth of your laws and in the life of the hereafter, no matter from wherever they may be. Bestow them with the comforts of life and an abundance of the means of sustenance. See the Messenger Ibrahim, how he had perceived and picked up all the evils which were existing in that society in which he had become a Momin, and how he recognized that fear and huzn create how many problems for the common man. And over here he is supplicating to have a place where there is peace and there is abundance of sustenance for everyone. Allah replied that undoubtedly these people will receive all this. As for the rest who reject this, according to our physical laws, they will also achieve the immediate benefits of life. But ultimately, they will be drawn towards a life of hardship in a state of despair. How wretched is that nation whose end is this. Next slide is provision of sustenance and peace. After discharging the supreme and blessed duty of an aim like the construction of the Kaaba, the first supplication which appears on their lips is to bestow rizq, which is sustenance, and aman, that is peace, on them. From this, the importance of sustenance and peace becomes clear. The reality is that the responsibility of shaping and strengthening the divine system can only take place in a situation when this nation becomes safe from all kinds of dangers and secure economically. The essential consequence of going against the divine laws is the restriction of sustenance. Whoever goes against the divine laws, his sustenance narrows down, and understand it as he goes blind in the world. And whoever becomes blind in the world, he also remains blind in the hereafter. Next is, it is obvious from this that the place where Ibrahim had settled his progeny, and that is the progeny of Ismail, was such a valley where there was no cultivation taking place, but where he settled them, it was a town called Mecca. Rabbi Jal Haza Baladan Aminan Warzuk. And the word over here, Haza Baladan, that is Balad, is some kind of a town. Another verse to elaborate it, the supplication of Ibrahim regarding rizq, that is sustenance, is noted at another place in the following words. O our Rabb, for this supreme purpose, I brought some of my progeny to settle down near your exalted house. This is called your house because by being beyond all individual associations, it is a collective place of peace for universal humanity. It is located at such a place where there is no visible sign of any cultivation around it. I have made all this arrangement so that my progeny establishes the system of Salat, i.e., that system in which all people follow your laws. Hence, O our Rabb, make the hearts of the people inclined towards them, despite all these apparently inhospitable circumstances. See how important it is that the people should come together and meet jointly their sustenance, and that is meet their basic physical needs and then work towards the self-development. Furthermore, provide them with the means of sustenance from the produce of the land, so that by becoming economically secure, they work with such motivation and devotion for the achievement of this aim that their efforts bear full fruition. And this effort, which is the word shukr has come over here, is the manifestation of their efforts in which self-development is also included. We go to the next verse, 127, remaining focused through acquisition of knowledge. وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. With these beautiful yearnings and hallowed heartfelt wishes, Ibrahim and Ismail laid the foundation of the center of the divine system. Their hands were busy in its construction, and on their lips were ecstatic prayers that, O our Rabb, honor with acceptance these humble efforts of ours, since you are aware of the intense longings of our hearts and hear the yearnings reaching our lips. Hence, you know well with what intentions we are making efforts in the construction of this center, and those intentions are nothing other than that by remaining attached to this center, we could live our life according to your code of laws, and for our heads to remain bowed down before this. Not only us, but those people should be born in our future generations who are those who will obey your laws in this same way. Just see how dedicated this family was. And they did not leave it to their supplications. They supplicated and then with full intention, with full choice, worked for establishing this system. To go to the next verse, 128, actively seeking to establish Deen through a center and objective. Rabbana waj'alna muslimaini laka wa min zurriyatina ummatan muslimatan laka wa arena wa manasikana wa tub alayna innaka anta tawwabur rahim. O our Rabb, and those intentions are nothing other than this, that by remaining attached to this center, we live life according to your code of laws, and our heads remain bowed before these. Not only us, but such people are also born among our future generations who are obedient to your laws. See how concerned they were about the future generations as well, that unless this Deen is established now, and there are people who are going to take it forward, this system will stop at some place where people will not pay attention to it. And there is a great lesson for us as of today, that once this system is established, we should have sufficient people at the center of this system who should be able to manage it and pass it on to the future generations. Tell us of those ways and means, procedures through which we are able to achieve this supreme aim, and the direction of your blessings and bounties remains towards us. And this is what the guidance of Allah is for. That is, the Quran guides us through all the phases of the present as well as of the future. This is because only your law is the one which, as soon as someone bows to it, it advances forward itself towards him with the means of rahmat and rububiyat accompanying it. The next slide is guidance for Momin of the future. Here the Quran has pointed to the importance of creating righteous desires in the light of Wahi in order to tread on the path of Allah. Both Ibrahim and his son Ismail did not sit idle after desiring to work on the path of Allah, and instead pursued their goal with total motivation and with all the available strength and resources, and established the house of Allah. Both show immense foresight and vision of the future, where a nation of Muslims will rise up obeying the laws of Allah and create the system of Deen with their center in the Kaaba. By stating, Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim, two important divine attributes are highlighted, which are the foundation stones of the system, to use the physical senses in order to acquire the requisite knowledge in all aspects of the era in which we live, including the application of the Quran. By mentioning their progeny and their education and training, they highlighted the importance of guiding future generations on the path of Islam. And Quran has said in this verse, Rabbana waj'alna muslimayni laka wa min zurriyatina ummatan muslimatan laka. Our Rabb, make of us Muslims and of our progeny. After this is the conclusion of these beautiful yearnings, in which it has been described why this valley of Hijaz was selected for this center, that is Kaaba, for the unity of mankind, and why the glance of selection was cast on Ismail for this aim. It was supplicated that, and this is in the next slide. Next verse is 129. Important to organize education, training on the hikmat of the Quran, and to help with self-development. Rabbana wab'as fihim rasulam minhum yatlu alayhim ayatika wa yuallimuhumul kitaba wal hikmata wa yuzakkihim innaka antal azizul hakim. We have also covered the contents of this verse under Surah Jummah. O our Rabb, this process continues among our progeny as well until such a time that a messenger rises up from among them who, taking this revolutionary message forward, will present your code of laws in its final and complete form in front of them. He should provide teaching of this code, that is the book, and also inform them what is the purpose and aim of these laws and what outcomes will become manifested by acting on these. And not only provide teaching at an ideological level, but instead practically shape such a system in which the potentials of the people bear fruit and their selves keep on developing. This kind of development can take place by the amalgamation of power and hikmat, and this type of amalgamation is only possible within the system defined by you. And we go to the next slide, further elaboration. What is noted in this verse is important and needs to be related to the practical experience of setting up a holistic system of self-development, quite different from the man-made educational systems. Under the man-made education system, the values under which it works are relative. So the question of self-development does not even appear because it never even thinks about it. The aim of the teaching of the Quran is to help transform raw human beings into those with a new life who can fulfill the aim of their creation as described by Allah Himself. Let us now look at the verse in steps. Firstly, after understanding the Wahi of Allah, i.e., the Quran, the messenger carries out the targeted function of helping to prepare a Jamaat of people for the task specified by the Quran. It means that some human beings have to take responsibility for understanding its finer details objectively, which are verified by others on a continuous basis using the criterion of the Quran. Hence, the Quran is to be used to acquire that cognitive ability which helps to bring out those latent potentials which are intrinsic to Deen. For example, divine attributes should be acquired and manifested tangibly in the outer world, not by mere words. And we go to the next slide. Continuing, secondly, such persons should have the ability to be highly articulate to assist others in comprehending the Wahi of Allah and its various aspects, which can help those who are willing to strive on this path to be attached to this uphill task of Deen as a system and aim beyond oneself. And this is important to understand that it is not by merely studying the Quran in our own time, in our own house, and keeping it to ourselves. This has to be communicated to others. And unless we communicate to others, make them understand, after understanding ourselves, the purpose of Deen will not be solved. That is the purpose. We will not be able to achieve the purpose of forming a Jamaat, bringing our hearts together, and then progressing towards the establishment of the system. Thirdly, they need to understand the science, both cognitive within the human psyche, that is, what kind of changes our psyche experiences after acquiring Iman and doing solid deeds. This has to be discerned, this has to be recognized by us at an individual level and visible in the physical world. Because if we don't do that, then we will always be dissatisfied as if we are not doing anything. It is only through those changes, the transformations which are taken place within our own psyche in the light of the Quran, that we will appreciate that we are on the right path. We will develop that conviction through signs appearing within our own psyche as well as through our behavior and conduct in the outer world, that we are on Sirat-e-Mustaqim. The Quran has pointed to these signs which need to be understood within the context of the era in which these efforts for Deen are being made. Fourthly, the Quran has said, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, arranging to provide teaching and education of the book, that is, of attributes, principles, values. By explaining the logic and reasoning of each and every aspect of its value system so that Momin become fully convinced of its value within the context of the system of Deen. Because wherever Quran gives a permanent value and we'll pick it up, we have to look at its hikmat as well, that what effects will appear within our own psyche as well as in the outer world by following this particular permanent value. And we have gone through many of these permanent values previously. This involves learning it as a value system, comparing every aspect of it with the man-device systems and their relative values and its application in terms of solving all human problems and issues, i.e. the physical and the self. Fifthly, by stating yuzakkihim, i.e. self-development, Allah has asked us to look at every aspect relating to the development of the self in the Quran, for example, through solid deeds. By concluding this verse saying Al-Aziz Al-Hakim, this is how these two attributes are learnt and then subsequently manifested in the human world. We can see from this verse and its short explanation that Quran puts forward a detailed education and training program before us. It is not a question of just going through the Quran in one night or 1 month or few months and then thinking that we have learnt the Quran and we have done our duty. Not at all. Quran is a book which leads us towards establishing the system of Deen, and it wants us to first prepare ourselves to become those human beings called Momin in order to understand the Quran and then pass it on to others and then form a Jamaat and then bring our hearts together and understand that why this system is required to be established after seeing what havocs and problems the man-made systems create for wider mankind. We go to the next verse, 130, enabling the human self to acquire eminence. وَمَنْ يَرْغَبُ عَنْ مِلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِلَّا مَنْ سَفِهَهُ وَلَقَدِ اصْطَفَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَإِنَّهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ لَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. I've highlighted some of it, مَنْ سَفِهَ نَفْسَهُ and وَلَقَدِ اصْطَفَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا لَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, and we'll look at these in subsequent slides. This was that maslak on which Ibrahim was treading, that maslak due to which he had achieved an eminent and chosen life in the world, and due to which he will be included among the fortunate beings in the hereafter who possess the abilities within them to live an eminent and lofty life. Now reflect that the individual who, by rebelling against such a maslak of life, treads on other paths, if he is not suffering from self-deception, then what else it is? So the Quran is asking us that you should reflect on this and then adopt it. If you use your intellect and reasoning, then you will be able to understand it. And those who reject it, how unfortunate they are, because they are ruining their hereafter. Only that person can adopt this path who has never made use of intellect and reasoning, who has not even considered the value and price of the human self and how necessary it is to bring out these potentials. Because these potentials are there within us. And if we fail to bring out those potentials, then essentially we have done injustice to ourselves. It is like buying some machine, some instrument, and not being aware of its whole potentials. As a result, we do not benefit from those. We go to next slide, elaborating a few aspects further. Three aspects are referred to in this verse. Firstly, in a question form, it is noted, who turns away from the millat of Ibrahim except the ones who debased their own selves. And the words used are man safiha nafsahu. This means those who know about the message of Allah. Here the Quran is inviting us to apprise ourselves with the aspects of self-development and then to make a deliberate choice to opt for this path of life, i.e. the path opted by Ibrahim. Secondly, if this path is opted by anyone, then like Ibrahim, they will also make themselves qualified for higher eminence and loftiness in this worldly life. And Quran says, وَلَقَدْ اسْتَفَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا. Him we chose and rendered pure in this world. So option is before us, that do we wish to be chosen for the system of Deen or not? So Quran is saying that here is the book. This will make you choose your own self for doing this job. And this is what the messenger Ibrahim did. Thirdly, since this life is connected with the life of the hereafter, hence the outcome of solid deeds is that Ibrahim had acquired a developed self, which led to his inclusion among those who are salihin. وَإِنَّهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ لَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. So it was through his own choice. He reached that stature which made him eligible to be included among salihin. His latent potentials reached that level of manifestation under the guidance of Allah that he became a model for others for all times. In this verse, the Quran is providing us with an incentive to choose this option which Ibrahim chose as a human being, and as a result acquired a higher stature in this worldly life, and this is placed in the reach of each one of us. We go to the last verse of this session, 131. The Quran invites us to submit to the laws of Allah, which will lead to those successes related to Rububiyat. That is the system of Rububiyat in the world, according to the permanent values of the Quran. Is qala lahu rabbuhu aslim, qala aslamtu li rabbil alameen. This was the Maslak of Ibrahim, i.e. the Maslak of that Ibrahim that when his Rabb asked him to bow down in front of our laws, then according to this invitation, he fully bowed down in front of those laws. That is, the option was given to him and he accepted that option, and then he got onto this path 100%, never be distracted. those laws according to which the rububiyyat of the whole of the universe is taking place. And he happily accepted this responsibility. We go to the last slide, further elaboration. After sharing some aspects of the character and conduct of the messenger Ibrahim, the Quran sums it up by stating that when Allah as Rabb invited him to his guidance, he accepted this invitation using his intellect and reasoning and devoted his whole self willingly to this cause. The mission before him was Aslamtu li Rabbil Alameen, to devote all his efforts towards the mission of rububiyyat of the whole of mankind for all times. And it had to start somewhere, and he presented himself as the initial seed for this system. And this is what it means when Quran says Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, that you should work for the system of rububiyyat of mankind. What is in it for us? Setting before us the lofty aim of working towards the system of rububiyyat after turning our face away from all man-made deities. And that is where Quran says, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ, i.e. rejecting the system of Taghut and accepting Iman. This rejection is based on a thorough understanding of the Taghuti system and what wrongs it unleashes on wider mankind. And we can see in the world of 2026 what kind of wrongs are prevailing in the world of today. Why Quran is asking us to reject this system? Because if we do not totally reject this system, if we are the beneficiaries of this system, then we will not wholeheartedly come to the Quran and work towards the system of Deen. We will always be in doubt, in suspicion, and that is not good. We are of no use to the system of Deen. This verse places a challenge in front of each one of us as to what kind of developed self is required by Allah in order to meet the criterion of being a Momin and a Muslim. Then when these Momin selves come together, that is those Momineen, how a Jamaat emerges, which can change the face of the earth into that system which works for the whole of mankind. Thanks for your time and for sharing this today. Please feel free to share it with your contacts. You may like to subscribe for future talks related to the Quranic system of Deen.